8 years after the 9/11 attacks, some in the U.S. are not convinced they have been told the whole truth about that day. Around 80,000 campaigners have called for a referendum on a new investigation into the tragedy, but America's Supreme Court has ruled it out. RT's Marina Portnaya reports from New York.
The demands have been heard, but the call to action silenced. New York State Supreme Court has refused a referendum on having a new 9/11 investigation. The initiative, supported by 80,000 voters, would have appeared on November's mayoral ballot. NYC Can, a coalition of victims' relatives, survivors, and rescue workers, led the referendum campaign.
Why didn't our fighter pilots intercept the planes?
Why was my uncle's crime scene tampered with?
Why did the military lie to the 9/11 Commission?
The group accuses the 9/11 Commission of failing to answer 70% of questions proposed by family members.
The vast majority of our signatures were...
Executive Director Ted Walter says politics continues to block the will of the people.
The fact that 80,000 voters have been silenced, the judge's decision clearly sends a message that investigating 9/11 or asking questions about 9/11 is not an appropriate thing to be doing.
Over the years, questions surrounding the truth about 9/11 have spilled from the internet onto the streets. USA! From the East Coast to the West.
We have questions, Mr. President.
Hollywood actor Charlie Sheen is calling out the new president on his promise of transparency.
We want our country back, Mr. President. Therefore, I'm not just calling on you and your team. I'm calling on each and every American citizen to wake up, stand up, and demand the truth.
NYC Can won't appeal the court's decision, but plans to take its campaign nationwide.
Our next challenge is to reshape the public's views about 9/11, because the bottom line is the only way that politicians will do anything relating to accountability, to getting accountability, whether it's 9/11 or another issue, is if there's public outcry, if there's widespread public outrage.
NYC Can is disappointed but not surprised by the judge's decision. After all, in the past 25 years, only one referendum has made it on the electoral ballot. Back in the early 90s, when New Yorkers voted on how long their politicians could serve.
When I became mayor...
When Mike Bloomberg stepped into office, elected officials were limited to serving 2 four-year terms. New York's richest man is now vying to stay at the helm for 12 years after city lawmakers decided to extend the term limits. Here, too, it was the politicians, not a people's referendum, which changed the law of the land. But if a government by the people ignores the people, many wonder if here, democracy is becoming hypocrisy. Marina Portnaya, RT, New York.